Hello Year 3, welcome to our first maths video this week. Just to recap on last week, first of all, we did lots of work on properties of shapes. So for example, angles, right angles, obtuse angles and acute angles. We also looked at the different types of lines you find in 2D shapes such as horizontal and vertical lines, and then parallel and perpendicular lines. This week we're actually going to be looking more at shapes, and today we are starting with being able to recognise and describe 2D shapes. So to begin with, I've got here a selection of a vast range of 2D shapes. Lots of these hopefully you are familiar with. There may be some that you haven't seen before, or at least maybe you haven't seen the proper names of before. So just take a little bit of time, maybe pause the video soon to have a look at the different vocabulary for each of these different shapes, and maybe choose one of the shapes and describe it to somebody around you. Thinking very carefully about the number of sides the shape has, the type of sides it has, does it have straight sides or curved sides, and also the number of vertices it has. Just in case you can't quite remember, vertices is the mathematical term for corners. So just take some time, a minute or so now, to pick a couple of those shapes and describe them to somebody around you. Okay, wonderful. So moving on. Today we're going to be looking at describing 2D shapes by using the correct mathematical vocabulary. Working with shape gives us a great opportunity to really consolidate our knowledge of shape vocabulary by doing activities like this one. Here I have got a shape and next to it a list of statements. Some of them are about that shape and some of them are not. So we are looking for the statements, the descriptions that match with that shape. There are several ways you can approach this kind of task. What I would advise you do is start from the top of the statements, read each one in turn, and for each one you read, see if it applies to the shape or not. Often, from my experience, if you just scan through all of these statements looking for the correct ones, that's when you're likely to perhaps miss one of them. I would go through from the top, read each one and decide if it matches the shape or not. For example, I have 5 straight sides. Let's count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that statement does match the shape. Let's have a look. Yes, it does. Just worth noting here, when you are counting sides of shapes or how many angles or corners, vertices, a shape has, it can be quite easy to forget where you have started and to count one too many or one too few. So if you do have this presentation on paper, it's quite useful to mark each of the sides or corners that you count so that when you get back to the beginning, you don't count one too many or one too few. I have 6 angles. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, angles are the point where 2 lines meet. I think this shape only has 5 angles, so I'm not going to click on that statement. I am a hexagon is the third statement. Now, I'm pretty sure a hexagon has 6 sides, and this shape doesn't, so I'm going to leave that one. I have 6 straight sides. Well, I've said it has 5 straight sides, and I know that's right because of the green tick, so I don't think it's that one. I have 8 angles. No, when I counted here to see if I had 6 angles, there were only 5, so it doesn't have 8 angles. I am a pentagon. Now, I do think a shape with 5 straight sides is called a pentagon, so I'm going to click that one. Yes. I have 8 straight sides. No, again, I know it's got 5 from up the top there. I have 5 angles. I think I did count 5. I will just double check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. I am an octagon. No, I think an octagon has 8 sides because it sounds like octopus. It has 8 legs. So I think I have clicked all of the statements, the descriptions that match that shape. There is another one for you to do in this presentation. I'm not going to go through this one. I'm going to leave that one for you to do. Okay. The next level of activity is this one. I'm going to ask you to think of a shape which has certain properties. So properties of shapes are things like the number of sides it has, the number of vertices it has, whether or not it is symmetrical, that sort of thing. So, can you think of a shape which has 2 pairs of equal sides, has 4 equal angles, and is symmetrical? What I would do now is just pause this video and see if you can draw a shape that matches those 3 properties and see what you come up with. Then press play to find out the answer. Okay, this is a possible solution to the question, a rectangle. You can see it has 2 pairs of equal sides, so the top and the bottom sides are the same length. So are the sides on the right and the left. They are the same length as well. So these are the vertical sides, the ones going up and down. The ones going left to right are the horizontal lines. It has 4 equal angles. All 4 angles here are the same size. Hopefully you recognise from last week that they are right angles. And this is a symmetrical shape. If I was to do a vertical line of symmetry, both halves would look exactly the same. If I was to do a horizontal line of symmetry, both halves would look the same. Okay, this is another example of a question you're going to be answering for me today. True or false? An octagon always has 8 sides, but doesn't always have 8 angles. And what I would suggest you do at this point is just pause the video and count the number of sides and the number of angles that those shapes have and see if you can answer that true or false question. Okay, let's reveal the answer. Is it true or false? It is false. A 2D shape made of straight lines always has the same number of angles as it has sides. It's a good fact to remember. Which shapes below are pentagons? Now, pentagons have 5 sides to them, and this one over here you probably recognise as being a pentagon. This is the kind of pentagon that's normally shown on displays of shapes in classrooms, and if you have been looking at the 2D shapes poster that is on the website to help you with this lesson, hopefully you will recognise that this sort of pentagon is the pentagon often used on resources in classrooms. It is called a regular pentagon, this shape of pentagon, but any shape that has 5 sides is called a pentagon. Like I said, this familiar shape is a regular pentagon. Any other 5-sided shape is called an irregular pentagon. So see if you can find the pentagons on the screen right now, and then press play again when you think you have found them. Okay. There are the pentagons there. Hopefully you counted each one of those shapes has 5 sides, and that is how you know it's a pentagon. I've got this question down here. How do you know they are all pentagons? Because they have 5 sides. This one is a regular pentagon, and these two here are what we call irregular pentagons. Something else you need to be able to do confidently is to explain what certain shapes have in common. And often there's a few correct answers to this kind of question. So have a look at these 3 shapes here. We have got an oval, a semicircle, and a circle. What do they have in common? That means what properties do they share? What is similar about them? And see what you come up with, and then press play to find out some possible answers to that question. Okay, here we have, they all have a curved side, is something that all these shapes have in common, one curved side. Some differences between these shapes, again, just take some time to have a look. What is different between the oval, the semicircle, and the circle? Okay, one of them has a straight side, the semicircle. That is a difference between them. Also, some of them are symmetrical, even when they are turned around. So, lines of symmetry is also something to consider with shapes that have curved sides, to do with what could be some differences or some similarities between them. Okay. At this point, I am going to say now is the time to have a look at today's worksheet and try and work your way through the questions. The answer sheet is on the website as well, along with the 2D shapes poster that I mentioned earlier in the video. It will give you a hand with some of the properties and the vocabulary of the 2D shapes if you are a little bit unsure. There is going to be another video for our 3D shapes lesson, so I look forward to catching up with you all then.